So for starters, let's go through Dancing with Colors supply list. What'll be in the kit and what you need to supply. What's in the kit is a selection of beads, a filigree, your chain, your fire line, a beading needle, E6000, and then your pre-cut shapes. What you'll need to supply is a selection of multicolor bright pastel, light colored Prismacolor pencils or whatever colored pencils you want to use. Prisma's my favorite. You'll want to have a heat gun. We're using the white domed mold and the green fluted spacer bead mold. You're going to want pliers to open and close jump rings, to cut the wire wrap dangles, and round nose pliers to make the wire wrap dangles. So let's get started. So I've washed my hands and now I'm ready to add colored pencil designs to the pastel leaves. I'm just going to do really simple designs. Oh, there it is. What I like about using the pastels is my ability to go in with colored pencils over them, because both are, well, the pastels are real dry medium. And so it doesn't create any kind of major resist for the colored pencil. I think I'm going to go around that with the border. Burnish out my tip so I have a nice broad tip on my pencil to border this with. And then on these, I'm going to leave them very simple. All these designs are done on the sanded side. I think this is too mono-colored, so I'm coming in here with the little black dots on top of these. There. There, I have my leaves done. Now we're going to go on and do flowers. Going to start with the round piece, and I'm going to put a border on that. So I'm going to burnish out my pencil that I'm going to be bordering that with so that I have a nice broad pencil tip to create the border around this that I want. Sorry about that. Just getting over bronchitis. Okay, then I'm going to come in here and shade plaids on this, plaid lines. This is one of my favorite complementary color schemes, is the purples and blues contrasting with yellows and oranges. There. Now, on to another one. Do this little guy, and I'm going to outline him with dark orange. Notice how when I do this, I do lines like this, not little lines like this. That creates too many chicken scratches. So I try to, even though I go back and forth over it, I try to make it more of a longer stroke, not short chicken scratch strokes. Okay, let's come in here with the yellow. And I'm shading in here with the soft pink. And if I see some areas that I think need cleaning up, I'll go in there and clean them up. And the same with the yellow back around there, clean that back up. There, that one's done. Now, we'll go on to one more. Looking at my reference point on this. And horse-sized shapes again. It's kind of teardrops and horse shapes. This horse eyes. But just do what is your inner doodle. This one I'm choosing not to do an outline on. Let's come in here and clean these up. clean up. And then we're just going to do 2 small ones. And one of these I'm going to do, it looks like it has a little nick on it, so I'm going to get a clean one. I'm going to show you shading on this. So blunt. I'm going to just come in here with a very blunt colored pencil. Just a light twirling motion, very light touch on it. Just skating across the surface. Same now with the yellow. Light twirling motion on the surface. Then burnish it with my finger, because there's oils in Prismacolor pencils and they'll blend in, and then just come in here heavier. In fact, I might do that with pink. And then remember, your colors will intensify 50% when you shrink them down. So I always keep my colors light and really avoid the dark areas for details like the black, just as little tiny details. So we're going on to our last flower, putting these deep orange veins in the flower. I'm just going to keep that one very simple. Okay, we have our pieces done and they are ready for shrinking. I'm going to shrink our flowers first, and the first one we're going to do is doing the fluted spacer bead mold. It looks like I've got to find a bottom for that. Here it is. Looks like I had 2 tops. This one here, your black one, it didn't have any color on it. We're just going to shrink it plain with just the black. So get your heat gun out. Place in, it doesn't matter what side's up or down or bottom, the matte side or the shiny side. And then let's just heat, keeping our gun at about the level of the pin top and going evenly around the perimeter. And I might just hit areas that are shrinking slower. Go over and hit those areas. It's flattened out, it's not moving anymore. And I'll put the top on it, and I'll count to 5. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. And what I like about this one here is that we'll have an option of whether we want to use the shiny or the matte side. So it's just basically a fluted spacer bead with no design. Now we'll do this one next. Make sure I wipe any colors off my mold. Now this one here, the same thing, because the fluted spacer bead doesn't have a top or bottom. It doesn't matter what side you put up on the mold, because you can use either side. And once again, I'll hit the sides that aren't shrinking as fast. And just go over it evenly. Make sure that all sides are shrunk down. And it's not moving anymore, wiggling and shrinking. The wind may be blowing it, but then we put the top on and we count. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. Got a really nice little spacer bead there. Now, next, this one here is fun because we can use star mold if we want to, or we can go ahead and use all the white molds. And just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to use all the white molds on this. Now, if I want to see the shiny bead on my surface, I will put shiny down in the mold. So when I mean shiny on the surface, if I'm looking at the bead like that and I want to see shiny there, I place that down in my mold. So there's shiny and I want to see shiny on the surface, so I'm placing it down, face down in the mold. Put my pin in there and I count 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. I have a tendency to use this end of with the white mold, but you can use either side you want. There we go. Just so you can see how nice and tight my design became after it shrunk down. Okay, then we're going to do these little ones, and I'm going to do one with the shiny side down, and then one with the matte side down. And this, because I didn't put a lot of design on it, we're going to see just the pattern's going to stand out really well. So it's really nice to consider negative space. See how fun this little bead is? And then this one here, I said I was going to do matte side down. So that's what I'm going to do. And this one just slumped right into its little bowl. This is the one that I did the shading on. And there's what the matte bead looks like. So this is our little collection so far of beads, and we have one more, and I want this one also to be shiny. So I'm placing shiny in my mold because it's going to be this focal point right here. And oops, I didn't put shiny down, I put matte down. So if you move very quickly, you can flip that over if you're willing to touch it and you move really fast. But if you're not, just let it cool, take it off and flip it over and put it on. There. Adorable. Now we're going to start with our leaves. And I'm going to bring over the star mold for this. You can do this on the fluted spacer bead mold too, but I'm going to show you both if you have the star mold, how you can use it, and then I'm going to show you how you can do the same thing on the fluted spacer bead molds. We're going to heat our leaf. And we're going to move it so that it's right there in the crevice. And we're going to bring this down on it and count 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. And make sure that's cool. And we get this nice shaped leaf bead. So let's do that on the fluted spacer bead mold. And bring over one of the other shapes, this one right here. Bring that up, bring this down. And then if there's a little tip in here, you can bend it down. All you're creating is kind of ruffles and tips in this. And they just create really nice little leaf shapes. Now for the, I'll do just one more. Like I said, you have extras in your kits. You may only use 2 of these, but you may have extra shapes, and they may not be exactly what you're seeing here. You're just going to have leaf shapes to play with. This one here, I'm going to put the center of it down in the divot. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. There. So you got some really nice shapes to play with. Now let's go for these guys. And what I do, you can do it with either shape you want, either mold you want. You can do these in a box, or you can, in a container and pick them up and hand form them, but I'm going to show you how to do them with the pin. Just twist it enough so that you can see some of those little leaf fronds pop out, and then count till it's cool. That doesn't take long. And you get this nice little, this is with the little, see how the little tips float out on that? And then one without the cuts in it. One 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. Make sure it's cool. And we'll go back and we'll do another one with the cuts. Slipping up like a little worm. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. On these, when they're so close to the mold, which is holding heat, and the pin that's holding heat, they're retaining the heat a little longer, so maybe more than 5 seconds to cool them. I would say possibly even 10 seconds. This one's still a little malleable. You just don't want to pull them off the mold until they're formed. And you will have extras in case you screw them up. Or let's just say practice ones. Practice ones, not screwed up ones. Because you want to keep them elongated. You don't want to make a J shape. There. One 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009, 1010. And see, even counting to 10, it was still moving a little bit. Just make sure it's cool. Don't rush it. So I've got one more to do. One 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009, 1010. This one didn't have any of the little cuts in it. And both are fun. Here's one with the little cuts in it and one without. Let's see where we are. So this should give you enough to play with. And as I said, your kit will have a selection to play with. Okay, on to assembling. So let's start assembling. I've poured out my selection here, and I've got my chain. And over here I've got my needle and thread, and then my bead collection, my filigree, and my Shrinkit flower beads and leaf beads. And I'm just going to work one of these at a time, like say one strand at a time. So this one here has about 1 inch of chain. So I'm going to cut myself. This chain is soft brass, so I can cut it with titanium scissors, you know, wire cutters, whatever you have. And I'm cutting myself, well, maybe it was a little more than 1 inch on this one. Let me see. I'm going to give it that big length. No, about 1 inch, 1.25 inches. Make that length a little longer on that one, because we're going to do three chain lengths, and we want them to be tiered. We don't want them all to be the same length. So we can use a combination of our jump rings and our chain tiers to do that. So let's see, the third one, I'm going to make the 2 outside ones about the same length. Okay, that's going to be our tier. And we're going to take our pliers. It's nice, you know, you can have a set. What I always recommend is just a basic set, which is, you know, a chain nose, round nose, and wire cutters. But if you have 2 chain noses for opening and closing jump rings, that's a bonus. So you're going to have combination of some 6mm jump rings and some 4mm jump rings in your kit. And we're going to try to use the 4mm because it'll be less visually invasive. But we have to make sure that those will give us the room we need. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want my biggest leaf bead to be down here at the bottom. And I'm going to hope a 4mm will work, but I'm going to guess it probably isn't. So I am going to use, I'm just pretty much sure that it's going to require 6mm on this one. So I'm putting that on the tip. And then I'm going to come up here with 2 more, right, and evenly space those. And this is where I'm going to try the 4mm, because these are, I'm hoping, smaller. Four is working, staggering those evenly. There, I've got my first tier done. And then I'm going to do a second tier. And I'll probably just put two on each of these. So I'm going to keep with the leaves on the tips. I've got frisky puppies. Quiet, frisky puppies. It's that time of night. They've just had dinner and it's raining outside, so they run out in the rain, and when they come in and it's all dry, they get very excited. Because they think when they come inside that they've made the rain stop. Okay, I'm going to do a little switching because I wanted the big ones at the bottom and I didn't follow that sequence. Just on this piece, I'm just going to make sure that I have a, I think I want a leaf bead on the tips. A Shrinkets leaf bead. And I do have extra leaves that I can choose to use. Once I'm done, I can just look at things, and if things need adjusting, then I can do it. But right now, I'm following what I think is a design plan that I have in mind, with creating these in staggers and then going and creating the strung dangles that will randomly go on the chain too. And those are where we will be using the Shrinkets flowers. So this is our look so far. Flax seed bead on there. I'm going to add a little sequin bead. Very joyful puppy back there. And then a gear bead. So then I put the spacer bead on, and what you'll see is I'm doing this without a needle. I'm going to put my big eye. If you want to do it with the needle at the next point, go ahead and do it with the needle. So I'm going through here, and then I'm going to separate them out, and this is where you would put the needle on if you want to. So you've got your 10 in there. I'm going to use my big eye because that's what I like to use, but I know most beaders will want to use a nice beading needle. And then next, we're coming in here with our fluted spacer bead mold, fluted spacer bead, this nice purpley bead right here. The black bead. This is just how I've chosen to design this piece. And then a black and white stripe. And a fun sequin. Quite a bit of sequins to pick from. And ending with a little yellow bead. And now we're going to make the beaded loop. And this is going to be, I'm going to pick how I want to do it. It's going to be these minty green beads with the chartreuse greens. Tiny seed beads, every other one. And I'm hoping that's enough. Thinking it is. And I will loop this around and go down through everything until I come out where the string met. And I will have my two tails, and I will pull that into a knot. Okay, I pulled it tight into a knot. Now I'm going to do a surgeon's knot. Pulled that really tight. I'm going with the short tail around and around and pulling tight again, and then another surgeon's knot around and around and pulling it tight. So I've got 3 knots on there, and I feel satisfied that that will hold. Okay, so that's my first fun little charm, and I use whatever cutters you like to cut it. I'm going to use my X-Acto knife. And I have this fun little dangle. And I'm going to get my tails tucked in there. Okay. First fun dangle. Now let's go for the second one. The same amount, which is about, I think I'm cutting about 10 inches. Let's see what I have. First, I'm going to start with another little black one down here. And bring that to the center. And then come through here with my little mirrored bead and a sequin. And it's a tiny hole to get two pieces of thread through. But I can do it. Well, I may switch to a bigger sequin. Make it easier for myself. There. And then black. And I'm putting this one on. Coming in here. Let's see, this is where I want to split. No, I think I want to split above this because it's going to be hard to get under that sequin with a knot. So, if that makes sense. You just have to decide where you're going to have your two tails meet to knot this together. Okay, I'm going to split. And then this is where you could put your needle on, which I will be using a big eye because that's my favorite, but you have the nice number 10 needle in there. Coming in with yellow. And then I probably will do the same type of sequence here, or maybe switch it to yellow and blue. That's fun. I've got these tiny little blues in here that are really cute. See if I've made that too long. I don't think so. There we go. Come back through. Meet right there. Pull tight. Take this off. We're going to be pulling this really tight. When I tie these two knots together, it will pull. Now, don't do your surgeon's knot the first one because that makes it a little more difficult to pull everything all snug. And you want everything to drop snug. You want to get any strings off that are catching and just pull your whole sequence snug. And then you do your two surgeon's knots. One. Come in here carefully so things don't go funky on you. And then two. So this is a really easy way for beaders to do dangles if they're not comfortable doing wire wraps. So we've got our two surgeon's knots on there and our regular one. And I'm coming in here and cutting my line, and I've got my next little drop. That's so cute. And I'm going to go for a third one. So I'm set up to do the medallion. I'm going to get myself another length of fire line, which is perfect. I've got more than I need. I'm going to take a black seed bead and put it in the center here. And then I'm going to take this nice little faceted, I love this color, faceted bead, round, kind of rondelle shaped bead. It's a little 6 millimeter, I believe, and a sequin. And I'm doing this without a needle. Now, if you, as I've said, if you need to put your needle on for most everything you do, feel free. That's why they're in your kits. We're coming on down through the top of our focal bead. There. Then we're coming down through the black. And this is where a decision has to be made. Do I want that matte or do I want that shiny? So there it is matte and there it is shiny. And I think I'm going for the matte. I've done shiny on this one. So that means I'm coming down through here with this. And bringing that, and these little petals should fit in between the flutes on the fluted spacer bead. So I make sure you use that shape. This little rounded one is used for your drop. And it was a 5-petal bead and this little 6-petal bead. We're going to come through the back of this. We're going to separate our beads out. We're putting another sequin on. We're putting a black bead on. And I think we're going to put a tiny white bead on. Okay, you can do anything you want. I'm going to bypass that white bead. I'm going to come down through the pink. I think I am. There I am. Now, I could do my tie off here. Okay, like we've done everywhere else. Tie this and have this snug. But because this is the focal point, I'm going to come in here with my needle and come back up through my whole entire sequence. Go through the black. This tail back here that's waiting to be tied off. Come back down. And what I'm going to do is go back through my fuchsia and my black and my white, bypass the white, come out here and pull all this tight. And since I've gone double through this, it's going to be much harder to pull this all tight. But once done, I'll be better off. So it's time to assemble. So I'm going to put the center piece on, and this is where you can trim up if you would like. I'm just looking at this, and if I put it right here in the center, do I like how that falls? Oh, wait. I think I've got it upside down because I want that big leaf to dangle down there on the bottom. And it looks like I don't have it. Somehow it got moved. I'm going to move that down to the bottom rung. I thought I put it on the bottom rung, but apparently I didn't. So do any adjustments. I mean, it's okay if you have to adjust 3 or 4 times. Keep moving them around so that you get a pleasing drape and not just a fat cluster of everything. So you want these there. I like that. I think that's nice. So what I'm going to do is find my 3 holes here. I can put all of my pieces on this center piece here, or I can put the left and the right piece on this one. What I mean by piece is the little selections here, and then the longest center there. And I'm going to be using, I can open the links of the chain, which are really tiny, or I can use the 4mm jump rings. I'm going to use the 4mm jump rings. And I'm putting the center piece on. And closing that up and seeing how it looks. And I might once again feel now with the jump ring on there that I have too much chain. So I'll show you. I'm going to take it off. I'm going to choke it up there. Right up tight. Not cutting any chain yet till I see what it looks like. Okay, and I'm not going to cut any chain till I get all of these guys on here. And I think maybe I might have the same issue here. I don't want too much chain. I want right under the medallion, I want to start seeing leaves and flowers. So I'm going to choke these up quite close. And then I'm going to look and see, do I want it there? I'm going to try looking at it to that left link. And then I'm going to put the other one on. And I can see that I like that. I may want to bring this one up, but I'm not sure. Let's see. So I have to bring these 2 guys up. This is where it's nice to have a nice broad chain nose pliers to get these jump rings off, to hold them more securely. Well, that's taken some wiggling and squiggling to get off. I suppose I need to open it up a little bit more. Okay, so I'm choking this way up. And in order to make room on that ring, it's hard to see what I'm doing. I'm going to have to cut the chain off. because I'm really committed to wanting to use the 4mm jump rings. As I have said, they're a little harder to deal with, but they're more aesthetically pleasing. So we have this. We have 2 chains on here. What am I doing? We've got this on here. I think this fell off from the other side. This has fallen off from the other side because I have 2 leaves on each one, so not to get confused. So I'll show you if I have, I'm not using the round nose pliers, it's easier to move your jump rings. Coming in here, grabbing that little link. Oh, I see what happened. It fell off of right here. Sorry about the confusion, guys. Gotta make sure I get it off there. So I had to flip over and do that other side because both of them kind of had fallen off while I was working because I didn't close up my jump rings carefully. There, I've got that nice and closed, and I really like that side. So now I have this guy, and I have to decide I want to put him way up there. So we're back on track again. When the other side fell off, I got myself confused. So I'm dropping him just 1 link down and carefully getting in there to close that jump ring off. There. And I really like that drape. See how everything's kind of tiered around. It takes a little work and back and forth to get it where you're pleased with it, but it's worth it, worth the time to get the right drapes so that things are staggered as they go down. So now here's our chain, and we're not going to connect it right at the center. We're going to come over here to a left and a right of this with our links to get that on there. And you can do 2 things here. These little links on your chain that are in your kit open up. They're called S hooks. And see how I opened that up? Then I can bring that. If I say, here's the center and here's the center, I can bring it over here. Let's flip that over to the back side. Front to back. Sneak that on in there. And then take my pliers and close that gap. Close that S hook back up again. So the big thing I want to pay attention to is that this is called mother and son chain. So I've got the little sun right there. I want the sun on this side, so I'm going to have to take a link off. So I'm opening this. And coming over here to this side and bringing that down. Now, if you find this difficult, just use jump rings. But this gives you a nice finished look with your chain. Then the next thing, you can do the same up here. Find the center of your chain. Take one of the hooks, open one of the hooks, drop your lobster claw onto that and close it back up again. And then your lobster claw can hook right into there. And you have your piece done. Now let's look at the back side. The back side is pretty too. And that's the whole point of it, that if it flips around, you have a nice looking back side. And that we only use the glue to keep it from, to kind of work like as a rubber gasket on it, but it was all put together with cold connection beading techniques. So there we are, and thanks for joining me.